Ole Miss has their quarterback of the future, but when exactly is the future? We will explain next. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, the most watched Ole Miss podcast out there. I'm your host, Stephen Willis, a 10-year veteran member of the national media with Yahoo Sports and a former Ole Miss staff member as well. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network in the entire world. That's all because of you. Thank you very much. On today's show, we are going to break down and be extremely hyperbolic about a massive development for the future of Ole Miss football as the Rebels land their quarterback of the future in five-star freshman Deuce Knight of Auburn. The talented signal caller already has played meaningful snaps, starting against Mercer this season and accounting for 6 touchdowns and nearly 400 yards of offense. Next, we're going to take a closer look at where the Ole Miss offense currently stands in the transfer portal after a busy week and what holes still need to be addressed, where the Rebels could turn the roster over as their roster construction continues. All of this and more on today's Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Remember, we're free and available in all the podcast apps and on YouTube. And a special hello to the insiders and everydayers who make the show what it is. And that is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The college football playoff is here, and FanDuel is the best place to get in on the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boost every game day. So Ole Miss got a commitment from Deuce Knight, the talented, I guess right now, true freshman at Auburn University. And he will have 4 years of eligibility at Ole Miss should he decide to take it. He's played meaningful snaps this season twice. He played a little bit against Ball State in a win. He went 2 for 5 for 20 yards in that game. And he had 4 carries for 16 yards in that game. The big game is what is essentially his whole sample size at this point is a start that he had against Mercer in November. He accounted for about 400 total yards, had about 230 yards passing, including a 91-yard touchdown pass. He went 15 of 20, and he ran 9 times for 167-ish yards, accounting for 6 touchdowns along the way. It was one of those wow moments for Auburn. Every Auburn fan out there was excited after seeing Deuce Knight go completely nuts against Mercer heading into the Alabama week. So that's no matter what the revisionist history is, that happened. Ole Miss needs a quarterback. We're going to talk about what this means and the Trinidad situation and all of that in the next segment. So hang around for that, and we're going to talk about that. But what Deuce Knight means is an explosive athlete at the quarterback position, as honestly you have grown accustomed to ever since Jordan Ta'amu back at quarterback. Heck, you might even say Shea Patterson and Chad Kelly. Ole Miss has had solid quarterback play for going on about a decade right now. So it will be important for Deuce Knight to ramp up. John David Baker has his work cut out for him because you can't rely on extra stuff that's just not there. You know, we all think that a court is going to have an injunction for Trinidad Chambliss, but you can't count on it. So it is going to be important for John David Baker this season and this spring to really go hard in getting Deuce Knight ready to play football as soon as possible. He can do it. He's had the experience. He's put up massive numbers, but you need to get him ready to play against LSU, to play against Georgia. Those are going to be the games where the rubber meets the road with Deuce Knight. It's not a game against Mercer. It's not a game, whatever the FCS opponent is for Ole Miss. Getting him ready for those games is going to be the difference between Ole Miss being a 15 to 20 ranked team and being a top 5 team. because they can absolutely be a top 5 team next season. We're going to talk about some of the transfer portal commits that they got over the weekend and the work that Pete Golding is doing right now on the defensive side of the ball. Very, very similar to what 2024 was on this defensive side of the ball right now. I've already talked about how Will Eccles has made the Walter Noling jump and he's getting there. This defense is going to be pretty nasty in 2025 or 2026. Sorry about that. So Deuce Knight at quarterback, it's going to be important for him to grow up in a hurry. And I don't mean anything with maturity. I'm talking about being an SEC quarterback right now. And to do that, potentially, you need to be prepared to bring him up in a similar way that Joe Judge brought up Trinidad Chambliss. It'll be awesome that Joe Judge gets his hands on Deuce Knight going into the season, because we all saw the jump that Trinidad made over the course of the season. Great quarterback, great distributor of the ball, but Joe Judge had an influence of what was going on there. The quarterback play at Ole Miss has been absolutely divine over the last decade or so. This might take it to the next level. Now, we all said if Trinidad got his waiver and played football in 2026, he would be the Heisman favorite. Jackson Dart was one of the best in the entire country. Matt Corral was one of the best in the entire country. Jordan Ta'amu could make throw after throw. He's still playing professional football right now. Chad Kelly's up in Canada doing his thing, and Bo Wallace, well, he's Bo Wallace, and he's coaching in the junior college circuit at the moment. The point is, this isn't just another great quarterback for Ole Miss. This is the quarterback that we've been waiting for at Ole Miss. When you looked at the Mercer versus Auburn game this season, and again, I'm not going to put too much stock into who you're playing and all of that, but I am going to put stock into the fact that he was a problem running the football that day. When he ran the first play for 75 yards, when he ran the second play for like 50 yards, he was a problem offensively. And a running quarterback is another way for this offense to torture linebackers. And this offense is going to be the same that it's been the last couple of years. There might be a little bit of a difference because he might have a personal favorite call where it might be inside zone for Charlie Weiss. It might be outside zone for John David Baker. Everybody has their crutch call, but the bones of this offense is going to be the same. It's going to be high tempo. The structure is going to look really similar to what it's been. You saw with Joe Judge and those guys seeing what was happening in the offense. There's an experience factor. It is very important to get the structure right in this offense. Deuce Knight hitting the ground running when he gets to Oxford, Mississippi, which, heck, might be in a week or so. Who knows exactly where that was, is going to start this ascendancy to where his ascendancy will be important for the Ole Miss football team moving forward to put their best foot forward with Deuce Knight. Now, we don't know exactly what's going to happen with Trinidad Chambliss. We do know that if he comes back, he automatically becomes the best quarterback in the SEC and potentially the best quarterback in all of the country. But we're not 100% sure how it's going to play out, and we will tell you about that as soon as we come back. We'll explain all of that. Stick around. The college football playoff is here, and FanDuel has given all customers more ways to get in on the action every single game of the playoffs, because right now, every college football playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them in the app. Here's what I love about it. You get all of the profit boost on your bets that you already feel good about. Ride with the favorite when you think a team controls the matchup. Take a shot on the underdog when you feel an upset coming, or build a parlay around the players and moments you think decide the game. Then you apply profit boost and go after even bigger winnings. because when you win, FanDuel pays out instantly, which is perfect for playoff football. FanDuel is the best place to get in on the action all playoff long, so visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boost today, every game day. So FanDuel.com, check them out. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on the video. Subscribe to the podcast on whichever audio podcatcher you're listening to, and give it a 5-star review. It costs absolutely nothing, but it helps keeps all of this free. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in the world. You already live your team every single day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club and get Locked On Ole Miss with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 per month or $50 per year. Go to lockedonolemist.supercast.com or check out the link down in the show notes to learn more. All right, so we're all excited about Deuce Knight. Deuce Knight has a chance to be an absolute superstar at Ole Miss. His running and passing ability is something that we have not seen at Ole Miss. So Deuce Knight has everything in his favor to be the dude moving forward. But the question about Trinidad Chambliss is going to be out there until Trinidad Chambliss basically either goes to the NFL or he ends up back quarterbacking Ole Miss, or his college career is over. There are a few options, but if Trinidad Chambliss comes back to Ole Miss, he's the best quarterback in the entire SEC and potentially the country. That's at his feet. And I think if you made me bet right now, gun to my head, make a decision on who's going to be the quarterback for Ole Miss in 2026, I think it's Trinidad Chambliss at this point still. But it gets complicated moving forward, okay? You have this court case that needs to be filed and an injunction put out. And the way Diego Pavia was able to play was through an injunction on a lawsuit because of how slow the court system works as we sit right now. So you get the injunction for Trinidad Chambliss. He goes through practice and all of that through the season. He is the starting quarterback. He's an excellent guy for Deuce Knight to see the operation of the offense behind. You want to talk about a mentor-mentee situation, I would put Trinidad up above just about anybody. But the problem lies in the fact that you need that injunction to happen for him to be eligible. And you need the NFL to come back with a draft grade that's less than second round currently. If he gets a second or first round draft grade, he's gone, and he should be gone. At that point, it's about finding another quarterback that you can bring in with Anthony Maddox, AJ Maddox, and Deuce Knight. The quarterback room becomes very inexperienced, very young in that situation. So how do you handle this? I understand that it's like, hey, this is why Pete Golding makes the big bucks, because the way that both sides present in this is kind of scary, because in a world where you're all in on Trinidad Chambliss getting the waiver, it probably costs you a big-time quarterback like, say, DJ Lagway, because DJ's just assuming that Trinidad's coming back. And if Trinidad's coming back, DJ is not going to take that job. He's not going to do it. In a world where he's not coming back, it becomes a free-for-all. If you remember, when Trinidad Chambliss's waiver got denied by the NCAA, it was just a couple hours later that DJ Lagway was setting up a visit to Ole Miss, and he made that visit. Now, I have not heard anything about how that visit went or anything like that, other than the fact that Deuce Knight committed whenever he visited this weekend. But that just gives you an idea of where the Trinidad Chambliss situation kind of puts Ole Miss football, especially offensively. We're all kind of used to, I don't know, signing 7, 8 wide receivers in a transfer portal cycle and 3 of them playing. This is a different thing. When you don't see wide receivers, everybody's worrying about, oh, are they going to be able to get them or what's going on? No, it's just a different mentality in attacking the transfer portal window. If you look at LSU right now, it's like 7 of their commitments are wide receivers, and that's fine, but that's just the Lane Kiffin experience. Pete Golding is going to have different personnel that they want to commit. And we'll see what it looks like. I've heard different things. Let's see, Darrell Gill Jr. Out of Syracuse. I've heard that. There's a wide receiver out of Kentucky. I've heard of different players that have visited Ole Miss in recent weeks, including an offensive lineman out of Ohio State that has started 29 games. That feels like it would be a pretty big get if you could do something like that. And Ole Miss just had Delano Townsend hit the transfer portal. Really interesting stuff. I think on the offensive side of the ball, now that you have Deuce Knight, you can really start recruiting and get ready for the offensive side of the ball, because up until this point, the defense has been the lion's share of everybody, and this weekend was no exception. We're going to go into some of those names next week, but other than, was it Hayden Prescorn? I think that's his name. No, Brady Prescorn. Sorry about that. Brady Prescorn and Deuce Knight has been very defensive centric all the way through. Everything's going on. So we'll see how everything looks for Ole Miss moving forward. Remember, and this is pretty important to remember for anybody that's watching this, Ole Miss has an advantage when it comes to the transfer portal that other places don't have. And that is the last day of the Ole Miss drop ad cycle is about the 2nd of February, somewhere around there. Most people's drop ad deadline date is around January 20th, January 21st, something like that. So at the end of the month is where Ole Miss, should they choose to do it, can do some work, especially in this era where there's only one transfer portal window. So that's just something to keep in mind, especially what's going on. Like if Trinidad gets a big grade back, goes to the NFL draft, Ole Miss needs a second quarterback. Who is that second quarterback going to be? Is it going to be a Walker Howard at the University of Louisiana currently? Is it going to be a much bigger name quarterback? That I'm not sure of. But the opportunity to make moves like that will be there because of the Ole Miss, honestly, calendar. Since calendar is blamed for so much that is wrong in college sports right now, I think it benefits Ole Miss in the transfer portal. So we'll see exactly how that goes. In our final segment, Ole Miss just had another banner weekend in the transfer portal, and it's becoming a trend. We'll talk about what it means next. You know, the new year is here, and it's the perfect time to reset your routine and refresh your space. If you're spending more time at home, you might as well love how it looks and feels. That is why I turned to Wayfair. It's a one-stop shop for getting your home back on track. From bedding to mattresses to storage solutions for every room, Wayfair makes it easy to start the year fresh. Wayfair has everything you need for a full home refresh in one place. You know, whether you're updating your living room or organizing your space or upgrading your work from home setup, Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find exactly what works for your style and budget. Listen, I picked up new accents for all around the house. We got a new kitchen rug. We got a couple of bookcases for the living room and a couple of accent pieces to kind of go around the house as well. One of them is like a wooden pelican, and the other is like a Beetlejuice type crab thing to where you can put things in. I don't know. My wife really liked them and she wanted to get it. What is weird about this is it was here, every bit of it, in 3 days. Wayfair made it unbelievably easy. Delivery was smooth as it can be, and everything arrived exactly as it was expected. It honestly made getting back into the routine of this year feel a lot more manageable. Get organized, refreshed, back on track this new year for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFARR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. All right, so one thing that's pretty interesting, Ole Miss had a pretty banner week in the transfer portal over the weekend. They gotten to this point of the time of recording that more could come in. Of course, they've gotten 4 commitments, 5 if you include the high school player out of Raleigh, Mississippi. I think he's a relative of Suntaran Perkins. He was a player of the year in Mississippi in 3A this year. We'll talk about him a little bit as this moves forward. But today we're talking about the transfer portal. So there's 4 commitments out of the transfer portal as they happen. One of the first one, and this is not in the order that they received, they were just in the order that's in my thing, is Brady Prescorn. He transferred from Michigan. He is a tight end, 6'5", 225 pounds. He probably needs some time in the weight room. He is the brother of Caden Prescorn, the former Ole Miss tight end with Jackson Dart. He was a 4-star player coming out of high school, very highly recruited player. Ole Miss did not get him the first time, like we have said for 4 years at this point. And now other people are starting to catch up. You don't necessarily want to win the high school recruiting battle, but you do want to finish in the top 2. If you finish in the top 2, you have a chance to do some damage down the road when they ultimately get unhappy and transfer out. We saw what happened at Michigan this year with the coaching staff and everything's going on. Brady Prescorn hit the transfer portal and immediately went to Ole Miss. Now, it's also important that John David Baker, his offensive coordinator, he was the tight end coach when his brother was the tight end at Ole Miss, Caden Prescorn being there. So there is a relationship between the Prescorns and John David Baker. There probably was a trust factor as well, but that explains why Brady Prescorn was able to get here. Of course, we talked in the first segment about Deuce Knight. Deuce Knight has the chance to be an absolute star. If he can take care of the football and the game gets slow for him, he has a chance to be an unbelievably special player that Ole Miss, I think he's going to wear number 2. I think that's going to happen. Trey Wallace is going to get out of here. That number 2 is going to be up for grabs. I guess Deuce Knight and Deuce Alexander, I don't know which one's going to get it, but I imagine they're both going to try to get it. But Deuce Knight, if he can take care of the football, will be a weapon. Now, the defensive side of the ball, the first part of the transfer portal was very heavy on the defensive side of the football. And Ole Miss got a commitment from Joenel Aguero, transferred from Georgia. He's a safety. He is 6 foot, 200 pounds. 5-star out of high school, really good player. Basically, this is what happened with Pete Golding, in my opinion. Ole Miss this season could not play man coverage consistently. They just could not play man coverage. If the other team knew that you were playing man coverage, it was over. They would match you up to death. Pete Golding said, we're going to be able to play man coverage next year. This is from what happened in 2024 to 2025. And they were not good in the secondary in 2025. Now, there were some good players, some good moments, but they kind of let that front 7 down, made it hard for them to stop the run, because they couldn't bring a safety down in the box and play man coverage and do all the stuff that needed to be done because of how weak they were on the back end, especially at the safety position. So Pete Golding is trying to rebuild the safety position. Part of that is through Joenel Aguero. The other thing is through Edwin Joseph. He is a Florida State transfer, a safety. He's 6 foot, 170. He is more of a ball hawking Florida type safety that you usually see. Edwin Joseph is very good on the back end. I expect him possibly to be the free safety. Ole Miss has picked up a signing from LaDarian Clardy, who played a good bit during the playoff run, if not during the season. That was interesting to see. I'm curious to see what happens with Keon Young and the other safeties that are in the room that are coming back that were freshmen, because there are some young guys that did things well enough to where they got to get taken care of, essentially. But Cardi coming back, he's interesting. He's somebody that could be a free safety as well. When you look at Ole Miss defensively, the secondary feels like it's going to be fine. The front seven was already good. People are going to look at rushing numbers and what happened and blame it on the front seven. That wasn't the case. That was more calls over talent because you had to protect a secondary for a long time. Remember, Wydett Williams, by the end of the year, was the best secondary player that Ole Miss had. Antonio Kite was coming off injury at the end of the season. So you look at corners that were picked up, you look at safeties and things like that. The back end of that defense is going to be pretty good moving forward, especially in 2026. Sorry about that. So we'll see exactly what that looks like for Ole Miss and how that will bounce back. Anyway, thank you for tuning in to today's Locked On Ole Miss podcast. We're going to continue to talk portal all week long. We'll talk about Ole Miss getting an upset over Missouri with Tim Thomas a little bit later on this week. We got a lot of stuff coming up as we transfer over from being extremely football centric to being less football centric. So we'll see what's going on there. We're on all the social channels, so check those out as well. And did Locked On Ole Miss make your Spotify Wrapped? Proven on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform and they will drop you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get a favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. For those of you on video, we will send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen Locked On College Football or Locked On SEC. Hotty toddy, everybody. And remember, we got transfer portal. Baseball season's about to start. We have a whole bunch of stuff going on right now. This might be the time to become an all-access member of the Everydayer Club. You can check that out down below with the link. So check that out. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, we will talk to you tomorrow. Hotty toddy, everybody.